Oh,
Hey friends, welcome to this week's class of Dead Funny University. I am your host and fellow student Kelsey, and this week is our 8th episode in our Zelda semester. Teaching us, like normal in this particular subject, is our visiting professor Chris. Chris, we are in the middle of your favorite game. We are about to get into, I think you mentioned the temples, and the only reason I know this is because off screen, Chris was introducing me to all the music. From what we've heard and from what I understand, the music is an incredibly essential part of this game. It's a part of the feel of this game and what makes everything important about this game. But if we include that music, we're going to get copyright striked and we're either going to have to take down the video, or if we ever get monetized, none of it, it's going to be a problem. So we introduced me to all of the songs off the screen, except for I
yep.
think maybe a couple of them because we haven't gotten there in the
Nope.
story yet, correct?
Nope. We went ahead and did all of them.
Oh, we did all of them? Okay, excellent.
Yep.
It did actually create some questions for me. So, first, how are you doing? And then my questions.
Good. What are your questions?
So, we've talked before in the other games about the fact that there's always element temples. And
Mhm.
what surprised me was you said, hey, here's the song for the spirit temple and here's the song for the shadow temple. Are those
Mhm.
new to this game, or have we just never talked about those in previous games? Walk me through.
So they're new to this one because the big difference here is that we were dealing with elements when we went into the temple. Coming out, we're actually going to be dealing with sages and getting their tokens. And there's a sage per every part of the land. So the spirit temple's actually out in the desert, where fire is what you would normally think of, or earth, but fire is already taken, and they just didn't do earth, so they just called it spirit. And as far as shadow, that's always kind of been like the Sheikah tribe stuff, which we've already talked about. The
Hmm.
Sheikah tribe, and so yeah, that's kind of what that's all about.
Okay. So,
Hiding in the shadows and stuff like that. Yeah, the Sheikah tribe.
it has to do with the fact that we have now pulled the sword and we need to do
Hmm.
other things to earn
Correct.
all the parts of the Triforce, correct?
Exactly. Well, not the
Cool.
part of Triforce, but Triforce is gone. Ganondorf took that whenever he grabbed it while we were asleep and sealed away for 7 years. Remember, I told you how it was his plan for us to go there to begin with, because he knew if we took the sword, it would seal Link away
Yeah, I
for
just figured it
7
would
years, allowing
split off
him
of
to get in
him.
and grab the Triforce. Well, it did, but he got to keep the power of the Triforce. And the way the Triforce works is that whenever he accessed it, it's like the realm itself is like a mirror.
Hmm.
So basically, it mirrors his heart. So one with evil heart, it completely changed all of Hyrule. It's like dark purple clouds, and it's always storming and shit. There's monsters running chaos all over the place. Like, it literally, because that's what he wanted. And so the Triforce granted that wish. Because remember, the Triforce doesn't, you know,
Yeah,
care
it doesn't
between good or
determine.
evil.
Ugh. Ew.
Hmm.
I'm angry. I hate this. That's terrible. All right, he sucks. So, walk us through what we have to do to stop this guy.
So, um, first off, we're leaving the temple and we actually get approached by Sheik, which Sheik is the next Sheikah tribe person who is actually going to take over for Impa, because Impa's no longer around in the future. So that's Sheik, and
Wait,
Sheik kind of helps us out.
Is Impa dead, or is Impa just
So
off with Zelda?
So this really isn't a spoiler alert. You kind of figure it out, like they kind of hint to it, and if you're not really paying attention, you might miss it. But if you're paying attention and you're actually playing the game, you would pick it up. But Sheik is actually, or I'm sorry, Impa is actually the Shadow Sage,
Oh,
so that's why she's not around anymore. She's actually trapped within the Shadow Temple. So basically, there is a
okay.
person from each temple who is able to be awakened as a sage, and it's basically kind of like for just based off the fact that you've already been through it, kind of like Final Fantasy VII, for instance. Whenever the Earth's last, or Gaia's last chance was summoning the Life Force,
Mm-hmm.
Hyrule's last chance is summoning the sages to come together to try to help the Hero of Time beat Ganondorf. He has locked every potential sage inside of a temple, so they
Okay.
can't come to the aid of Hyrule. It's calling them now, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't know they're sages. They have no idea they're sages until Ganondorf grabbed them and then locked them away. Whenever
Oh,
Hyrule calls, then they just awaken as a sage, and they can hear the call. If you hear the call, you know you're a sage.
interesting. So,
Yep.
I love games where what are typically inanimate objects have some form of conscious and have a defense mechanism and have a call. So I love that about Final Fantasy VII. I'm glad to hear that about Hyrule too because I think it's neat and it adds an extra level of like awareness and concern and kind of having an ally in the whole process. You're not some crazy, moron off in the corner going, everything is over. The world is like coming to an end. Like the world itself is going, nope, we have problems. Like
Right.
we need help. And I appreciate that and I like that idea. So that's kind of neat. But
Yeah.
how did Ganon know that the sages were sages?
So Ganon basically, they never really explained it too much, but just by him being evil and just lurking around and stuff like that, Ganon kind of planned all this shit was going to happen. So he like knew literally everything step by step, which is why they kind of talked about the fact of leading up to the split,
Hmm.
because they talk about, okay, well, when we originally made the game, the hero won, like, because that's how games happen, like the
Hmm.
hero wins. It's not always true, but back then,
It
I
was true.
mean, I want to say the first ever RPG we ever had that did that was Final Fantasy VI, where like no matter what happens, the bad guy wins. Like that's just it. It's done.
Oof.
So yeah, and that shit blew my. It's one of like the best fucking stories out there. Honestly, it's not been at 7 in my opinion because I'm biased, but it's it's literally one of the top rated Final Fantasies out there. So it just wasn't a thing. So they're all like, well, if you really go back and look at all this, it gives us a chance to. We showed how smart Ganon was through the whole thing. So let's talk about alternate timelines where things actually could have went different. Now
Hmm.
that we're in a newer kind of age of video games where we can explore that a little bit more than versus the hero just always saves the day. And that's kind of how that timeline split happened to begin with. Because Ganon, in my opinion, was thought of very well done before his time. Like Ganon was a great villain for that game, but he was way before his time.
Hmm.
Like just how he was able to plan all this shit and go through. Like at that point in video games, it wasn't something that had ever happened. Wasn't something that we necessarily needed. It was great. I just don't think it was appreciated the way that it should have been, which makes the game that much more interesting because it's not like you're just going against this jackass who just went in there and just manhandled the fucking king and strong hand took over the whole fucking kingdom. No, like he played it very well, knew what the fuck was going to happen, literally get waited and waited and waited, watched shit unfold, understood how things were going to happen, how things were going to go down, and knew where to attack and where to strike, and was very calculated about it.
Early games seem to have a little bit of a brains versus brawn underlying story overarchingly. I mean, it's Mario versus,
Bowser.
Bowser, and you've just get this consistently. And so it sounds like they actually finally took a villain and went, we're going to give him brains too, and we're going to
Hmm.
give the hero some brawn, and we'll figure out like there will be some moral gray in this whole situation and created a
Hmm.
more interesting game that more reflects how games are today.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
today, if I pick up a game and our bad guy is literally just a bad guy intent on doing evil because that's who he is,
Without like a
I'm
good motive.
I
Yeah.
am so bored and unimpressed. I feel like
Mhm.
they just phoned it in kind of thing. So I'm glad to hear that this may be one of the places where a really popular game kind of picked up that narrative and moved it forward.
Right. Exactly. That's why I think you would honestly like Final Fantasy VI a lot with
Hmm.
just like the main overall bad guy in there, Kefka. He's like this dude that is just like a normal army guy, and he's just rising and rising and rising through the ranks, and they end up doing like a kind of like a super soldier serum type deal,
Hmm.
except it's with magic because they found like this magic stuff, and so they end up pumping it into him, and like it rots his brain. He goes literally fucking insane,
Ooh.
and so he actually starts dressing up like a clown. He actually has clown makeup and shit on, and he's just fucking nuts. And the whole time in the game, you're trying to stop him from being able to obtain more power because he's like, if I can get more and more and more of this, I can become a god. He literally thinks that like that is his end game goal. Of, I could become a god, and you literally don't stop him. He actually becomes a god, and he actually wins. It's actually like one of the top rated fucking Final Fantasies. It's so good. It's
I
so good.
mean, knowing the
I,
ending doesn't make me want to play it less, actually. That sounds really cool.
right? Yeah, it's fucking nuts because like in 14, it's a big callback to a lot of the Final Fantasies, and I've just been messing with a lot of stuff that had to deal with 6, and it just made me think about it again. I was like, oh, like This is so good. I missed 6. I'm like, I have to fucking play that one again soon. But anyways, back to
That's one of
Zelda.
our tangents. All right, back to Zelda.
Back to Zelda. we hit the quota. So she basically tells you all the shit that's going down in Hyrule, and that you need to go to each one of these temples and save the sage, or save the person that's locked up in there, so that way they can answer the call and become a sage. So once again, the entire point in you saving these sages is so that way you can get these tokens. They're basically just make you more powerful to go fight Ganon. They really don't actually serve a purpose in the game, if I'm being honest. It was just more of something for you to go do so the game continue on. But yeah,
Yeah, it was
so
your
basically go
shiny
save them. They
participation
give you,
medal.
yeah, there you go. It's like, yeah, you beat a fucking tower. Good luck. Go fuck yourself. So yeah, all that fun stuff. I might get the order of these wrong, which doesn't really matter, but I know for a fact we go to the Forest Temple first, which we are going to use some artwork that I found. And I want to go ahead and give total props to the artist. We are not the people who did this at all, but the artwork looks really, really good. So I want to show it off. And the artist's name is Tom Garden. You should go check him out. He actually has a lot of fucking Zelda artwork. But anyways, so that is the link coming onto the Forest Temple, finding it out in the woods, which, like I said, really well done artwork, and got a little Navi up there too.
That's gorgeous. The game doesn't look anything like that, does it?
No. No. Although someone actually did remake this game on a computer with the Unreal 4K engine, and it looks breathtaking.
Ooh.
Super illegal, but looks breathtaking. Anyways, what's cool about the Forest Temple is that you actually were here a lot as a kid and didn't notice that it was the entrance to the Forest Temple. So what you can see there is actually Saria playing on that little log. That's where she was always at doing her music, and that pedestal wasn't there. And neither was like that was all covered up by trees and stuff. So you never knew this was here. And then basically that was like your hint, was like, go back to, your where you spent
Your
most of your
roots.
time,
Yeah.
and you end up finding that. Yeah. So she shows up kind of like as like a ghost form, and she's playing the song, and it's like, yeah, I'm in the temple. Da, 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 da. Anyway, so you go in and save her. She's the sage of the forest. And she gives you
Convenient.
your token. Right, exactly. Pretty much all the sages are people that you've actually had like some kind of interaction with at some point in time.
I like that. I
Um,
also hate it.
yeah, it is what it is. It's like, I mean, the one that I liked the most was the Goron guy, Darmamina, whatever the hell his name is. I can't remember. Anyways, it was cool whenever he was the sage, because he's all like, look at that, you came and saved my village, and now here I am getting a chance to help you against evil. I guess this is what they call destiny, isn't it?
Aw,
Which I thought was pretty cool.
that is
But
cool.
the boss that you fight in the Forest Temple was badass, which I made sure I got pictures of all the bosses. So we got to fight Phantom Ganon. It was like your first chance of seeing like what your fight against Ganon
Whew.
would possibly be like. Eh,
That is a
he's
badass weapon, too.
right. Yeah, he's a beast. Phantom Ganon was the boss of the Forest Temple. So you beat him, you save Serena, she teleports you to back to the Temple of Time, and then gives you your token and so on and so forth, and then you fuck off. So
Nobody cares but me, but that weapon that he's
yeah,
using in that photograph, you would never use from horseback because it would pretty much guarantee that you would get pulled off your horse. Anyways, moving on.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I agree with that. And since we're talking about weapons, I guess I should show these off too. Did download these because we haven't really like went to deep dive on these, but that's the Ocarina of Time.
Neat.
Get the little Triforce on there. That's
Why
the
does
one
it
that
have
Zelda
a little...
gives you.
Why does it have a fin?
Finn, that's what you blow into.
Ah.
That's where the music starts.
It
No,
looks like a
that's
whale
what you blow into.
in the current format, and looks like its little top fin.
There's our Master Sword, the legendary Master Sword, which is not as iconic, but pretty fucking up there as iconic as the Buster Blade. So it's one of the most popular game swords out there. And then we also have the Hylian Shield, which is the only shield in the game that can withstand fire and cannot be broken
Can
at
you
all.
guess why I like this one?
Why you like which one? Oh,
Why I
this
like the
the
shield?
shield, because it doesn't have the fucking golden triangle on the bottom
Yes.
out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Oh man. But yeah, so we go do that, and it's like every time that you get to one of these temples, because you might need to leave or go do this or go do that. Because so I should have started off with this. Link actually gets to travel through time now. You get to use the Ocarina of Time to play the Song of Time to get the temple to open up so that way you can put the sword back in and you can go back to 7 years ago. You can now go back and forth through time whenever you want to.
Can you
And
stop
there's
yourself from
certain
pulling the sword?
no, like it's not like that back through time. Like
Oh.
it's like basically time rewinds itself almost, if
Mm.
that makes sense. But then it doesn't. So well, I know it would rewind itself back, and then anything you do whenever you're in the younger aspect, which once again you keep your memories. So anything you do whenever you're in the younger part of yourself, you then use that as your advantage to the future. So basically, like there might be certain obstacles and shit that you can't get past. So you teleport to the temple of time, reverse, go back, and then it might not be there 7 years earlier, like like a boulder or some shit. So you can set stuff up, then go back forward again and go back, and then it won't be there.
Okay, so I know this is an unnecessary comparison, but I knew this guy in college who he was in a frat house and the house was owned by his frat and the wall had some damage. They're putting up drywall and
Ugh.
everything. And he realized that he's going to come back for a 10-year class reunion. And he's like, when I do this, I'm going to come back to this house and I'm going to drink with these kids and I'm going to be really cool. So he put a bottle of liquor behind that so they drywall over the top of it. And he knows
Mm,
exactly where it is just because of things in the room. So he's planning on our 10-year class reunion to go back and just slam his hand through the wall at some point and rip this bottle out of the wall. So that's kind
yeah.
of what Link's doing. Is that what you're telling me?
Sure.
He's
Yeah.
setting up the
Exactly.
alcohol to impress the cool kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely what Link is doing. 100%. Okay.
Totally worthwhile tangent. Shut up.
Sure. Anyways, so as I was saying, so Sheik shows up to the beginning of each one of these temples to basically tell you, like, or to show you the songs that I showed you earlier that teleport you to the temples. All those last songs, I was like, these are the teleport songs?
Mhm.
Those are the ones I was talking about.
Got it.
And these are the temples that I was talking about. So then after that, we get to go to the fire temple with our buddy the Goron, which once again, amazing
Ooh.
artwork. And this is where the whole concept of the different tunics came from, by the way, for swords. This was the first game where you actually change colors of your tunic because you got tunics that helped out with specific temples. So this one was a little bit more fire resistant, and you couldn't like catch fire. Or if you were in there with your normal one, you would take damage while you were in there with your normal one because it wasn't heat resistant.
Interesting.
Blue tunic, I think, just made you either one swim faster. I know at some point you can get tunics in the later games where like they help you breathe underwater and shit like that for the water temples, all that fun stuff. But either way, so we say the Gor, or we beat the Goron's boss, which is this jackass right here. Name is
That is an awesome looking drake. That's cool.
yeah
Maybe it's a worm. Can't remember.
Volvagia. Yeah, Volvagia. Yeah, it's a dragon.
That that word is that's a gross word. Moving on.
Yeah, well, that's his name. So yeah, that is the boss of the fire temple. So we beat him, and then we end up awakening the sage. And like I said, we already had that conversation of kind of what he says to you and stuff like that, which was pretty cool. So then after that, we mosey on over to the good old water temple and Link in his blue tunic there. So what's really cool about the water temple, and this is actually funny because you talked to me about the fact on if I had any Zelda statues. And I told you I only had the one amiibo. One of the first Zelda statues ever made, and it's like because after we got through that DFU, I had to go look this shit up. They actually made a statue of this specific character, and it was like one of the first statues ever made. There's only like I think like 18 of them or something like that. It's a very low number.
Whoa.
But in the Shadow Temple, or in the Shadow Temple, in the Water Temple, one of the actual mini bosses is Shadowlink. So you actually fight yourself. And I
Oh
thought that
yeah,
was
you told me
fucking
about this whole
badass character.
story.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I told you about when you fight a skeleton soldier.
Yes.
That's different. That's a different game. That's not this game. That's a completely different game. This you
Okay.
actually fight yourself to better yourself and
Oh.
to actually obtain a weapon, which is the hook shot. It's like this little grappling hook that doesn't actually. Well, hey, no, it can take you places. It's fair. You mainly use it for fighting. Like Most of these fucking weapons you get, you literally use them for a fucking temple, like for a boss or something like that, and then you're done.
Never
Like that's what
again.
yeah. And this specific boss, not the Shadow Link, because he wasn't the boss, he was actually a mini boss. But yeah, the statues of him, which I thought was pretty fucking dope.
That is really cool.
But this is the actual boss, and the boss's name was Morpha, and it can freeze the water of any room that it's in. So it actually has the entire lake frozen, and all the Zoras are trapped underneath the ice, and they can't get
Oh.
out. And Sheik actually saved one of the Zoras, which was the princess, and the princess went to the temple to try to stop this, and that's when she got locked in there. And she's actually obviously once again the other sage. But yeah, you hook shot the little eyeball out and then chop it up with your sword. That's how you beat that boss.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Sounds effective, but gross.
Yeah, I like how out of all the pictures of the bosses that I could find, that was the only one that actually had Link in it, and it's like Link getting his ass kicked.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It looks like there's
That's
stuff
pretty
in
fun.
the water. Like, it looks like there's a clock up top that's been stretched by the water, and down in the bottom, it looks like there's a cooking pot and a ladle. Wonder what all that's about.
I think it's just
Maybe I'm just
the
making stuff up.
I 100% think that that's what you're doing.
Okay.
100%. But yeah, so that's the water temple. And then this is where things get a little hazy for me as far as where we went to next. But we're gonna go ahead and say that we went to the Spirit Temple next. That's what we're gonna do. Out there with the Garudas and stuff like that. You're actually the sage here is like the queen of the Garudas, and the reason why she's the sage is because she actually defies Ganondorf. So here's a little backstory on Ganondorf that you didn't have before, but I'm giving it to you now because it's whenever you find out about it. Oh, by the way, I've already told you about this, so I didn't really care to necessarily bring it up, but I was going to anyway. When you beat the Forest Temple, you actually get to go see the Great Deku Tree, and you see the little baby Great Deku Tree sprout for the first
Uh-huh.
time.
Yeah.
And he's the one, which how the fuck he knows this, I have no idea. He's the one that tells you the story about your mother, about the fact that she showed up, she was dying, she gave to the
Ah.
Great Deku Tree, that you were actually a Hylian, you were always meant to leave the forest,
Mhm.
and now that you know your destiny, it should help you understand what it is that you need to do. Once again, how he knew that, I don't know. But anyways, so Ganondorf actually has two, as they call them, surrogate mothers. I hate these ladies. Fucking hate. They're in like every fucking Zelda game. They're the fucking worst. I think it's the only one where they're actually related to Ganondorf. Fucking worst. They're the worst. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. Especially Majora's Mask. Anyways, so here's these two. Fucking hate them.
They seem
Apparently,
like a
Ganon,
lot.
pain in the ass one and pain in the ass two. Two witches that live out in the fucking forest. You don't really know that they're like Ganon's moms until basically, like I said, you talk to this sage, and the reason why is because they are actually the boss. The moms actually transform into twin Rova is the name of this boss.
Hmm.
So yeah, a nice little side note that you probably didn't know about before, but now you do.
Woman needs
Oh,
a halter top.
Kume and Kotake. Yeah, Kume and Kotake are the names. Kume is the ice one, I believe, and Kotake is the red one,
Hmm.
the fire one.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So they morph into one creature.
Yeah, in this game. The other ones, they're just pains in the asses that are like side quest shit, where it's like in Majora's Mask, it's like, oh, the imp boy was running through here and knocked me off my broom, and I broke my arm, and I can't move. I need you to go get this potion for me. It's like, oh, fuck yourself. But anyways, so you got the like I said, the shadow one that we're moving to, which is the reason why I say it's part of the Sheikahs is you'll notice whenever the picture loads, it's got the Sheikah symbol on the door.
Mhm.
So yeah, like I said, the Sheikahs kind of deal in the shadows and stuff like that. So there's this town that you go to, and this is where this whole famous shit started, by the way. And this is a meme that you'll run into. So this is literally what the fucking DFU is for here. You'll always hear that the strongest enemy in any Zelda game is a chicken. So
I have heard things
every
about this.
Zelda game, there's always a chicken quest where it's like, my chickens have fucking run amok. I need you to help me get them, gather them, put them all up. If you hit a chicken, it will fly and run away from you. Well, not fly, but like you'll hit it. It will go up in the air and it will flap its wings down and then land and then run away from you. If you hit a chicken, I think it's 3 times. Every chicken in the game flies to your location and beats the shit out of you. It's an actual thing that happens. This is not a joke. It actually happens. And it's because so many people thought it was funny to record themselves beating the fuck out of these chickens. So then Nintendo decided they were going to put that in the game to deter you away from animal cruelty, I guess.
Oh
But
my
yeah.
god.
So if you beat the shit out of chickens, they will fuck you up. That does happen.
Now, is
So
there
yes,
anybody
that is where
who's
that meme comes
like
from.
picked that fight and then lived?
No, you can't. It's
There's no way.
infinite seconds. You can't. This is physically like you. There's one of the games, I don't know which one it is, where there's so many chickens you can't even see Link. He's just covered in fucking chickens, and you're just getting fucking pecked to death. You're dying, like it's happening. There's just no ifs, ands, buts about it. Just take your ass whooping and move on.
I like how one
So,
developer was like, "Fuck these guys, we're gonna kill them with chickens." That's amazing.
yeah, fucking assholes.
And they got
Anyways,
everybody else on board. That's incredible.
yeah.
Continue, sorry.
So the boss of this one, which I thought was like one of the coolest looking bosses, his name is Bongo Bongo.
There are bits not attached.
Yeah, with his detached hands.
That's
Yeah,
creepy.
he is a beast, Kelsey.
I'm getting that vibe.
So, yeah. So, and then you rescue, and that's whenever you find out about Impa. So, as you get ready to then use all the sage's powers, because as I told you, there were 6 sages total. We only go to 5 towers, 5 temples. Rauru, as I said, is one of the sages, so he's the last sage. You don't have to do anything for him. He's already there. So now you're able to move forward and do what you got to do as far as, the hero of time is concerned. So now you can go take on Ganon and fight back. So leaving the temple, you then see Sheik one last time, and Sheik reveals that Sheik has been Zelda this entire time, and that's how she has stayed in hiding from Zelda. Or from Ganon. Sheik has stayed in hiding from Ganon. So she knew that she couldn't beat Ganon head on, and she knew that if she just walked around, Ganon would sooner or later find her. So she decided to take up the arts that Impa did, and Impa taught her as a child as to become a Sheik, and therefore, part of the Sheikah tribe. So she had a Sheikah gown, which is what she put on, which is what I showed you earlier in her first picture. And so that's what Zelda wears to try to mask herself to look more like a man and actually go around. And they actually do try to make you think it's a guy. Like, for instance, like I said, she rescued the Zora princess and tells you that. Like, I was able to rescue one, and it was the princess, and she ran off to the tower. Mm-hmm. Whenever you talk to the princess, make sure you tell Sheik when you see him, I said thank you. So they try to make you for sure think that Sheik is a guy.
Wow, so yeah. Passing male, definitely.
So that's Sheik, or as we know her, Princess Zelda. And yeah, so she did that so that way she could still aid Link, which is, like I said, where I thought Zelda was always cooler and more appealing to me, wasn't the helpless damsel in distress. Zelda knows that she can't take Ganon on by herself, but we all already know neither can Link, which is why we're doing all this shit to begin with. So it's about her helping Link get to where he needs to be so that way they can go take Ganon on together.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Right? So that's whenever you find out about Sheik, but whenever you get into the thing, Ganon ends up like sealing Zelda in this like crystal, and you have to do the first fight without her, and then after you kind of fuck him up in the first fight, then that's when she breaks out. She's able to like assist you and aid you in taking down Ganon for good. Anyways, but we'll get to that. But yeah, so that's what you end up finding out, which is also funny because I was going to point this out, I forgot to. When you actually rescue Princess Ruta from the temple, she basically hints at the fact of Link being a terrible husband, because remember she gave you that ceremonial wedding stone saying that you're now my husband.
Yeah.
That he kept her waiting for 7 years. And now she has to go be a sage, so they can't even be together. She's all like, "You're a terrible husband." It's pretty fucking great. It's like Link might have dodged a bullet in that one. That's all I'm saying. Might have dodged a bullet. I thought that was pretty cool that they did that. So
That's
yeah,
really funny.
so now you and Zelda are ready to go face Ganon. And yeah, I think that should do it for this episode. And then we can finish the last episode out on the ending of Ocarina of Time and talk about some fan theories that I think are pretty fucking awesome.
Awesome, will do. Well, that's going to do it for our 8th class on Zelda, but before you click off of this video, Chris and I are trying to figure out what to do with the DFU moving forward. Obviously, we're going to finish Ocarina of Time, but whether or not we are going to pick up my favorite thing of Mass Effect, which is being remastered, I believe, and released next spring. So, right about now is the time that I would want to start teaching a semester to Chris about it because he's agreed to be the student. Ha ha! And nobody will teach him on this but me because, ha! But I think he'll love it. And it's my favorite thing. It's my Final Fantasy VII. And so I really want to teach him about it. And we try to line up the Dead Funny Universities with things that are happening in the media. 2020 has thrown that all to hell, but we generally try to do that. And so we want some of your guys' input about whether or not we should start switching off. Right now, we do Dead Funny Universities every other week during a month. And so should we do one episode that's Zelda, and then the next episode's going to be Mass Effect, and we'll just go like that, but then you're only going to get one episode of Zelda or Mass Effect, whichever you prefer, a month. So that's
Mhm.
the problem. That's kind of the challenge with that one if you're only interested in one piece of media or the other. Or do we finish off Ocarina of Time and then just do an entire semester on Mass Effect 1 and then jump back in and maybe do a whole timeline on Zelda and then jump back to Mass Effect? How should we do this that'll keep you guys engaged? Because we want to produce interesting material for you. We want you watching this content. So if you're like, fuck Mass Effect, nobody cares about it, nobody's ever cared about it, in which case I will bite you. Um, but if that's how you guys feel, let us know so then we can make sure that we're not wasting your time by producing content that you're not interested in. So if you would, in the comments specifically, tell us what you think, that would be amazing. Or if you have hey, what if you thought about doing this? We can't do more than one episode of Dead Funny University every 2 weeks at this particular point. I'm the one who runs all of these. I edit all of these. I don't have the time. I have other things I have to do in my life. I'm sorry. So if you're only getting one every 2 weeks, do you want it to be Zelda, Mass
Black.
Effect? How do you want this to go? Feel free to throw that in the comments. And when we are making the decision, we're going to look at all the comments that we've received and we will make a decision kind of based off of what he and I want to do in addition to what you guys are recommending. So if you would let us know, that would be helpful. Also, if you like this content, like and subscribe and turn on those notifications. You've heard this a million times because it genuinely is helpful to us as a channel. It helps us grow and helps other people realize that we exist. You know when to come to class. That's every Tuesday. Come and join us here. Interact with us in the comments below about anything that you may ask with the content that we're creating, or of course, hey, this is how I would want the DFUs to go. Let me know. And then we also have our Twitter or our Twitch links below as well. We are trying to get JoJo to affiliate. So if you would love to watch him play some games, he's very fun. He plays fun games. And we will see you in the next class of Dead Funny University. Bye, friends.